Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for EMBCA's New York City Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings Community Service event in association with the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, the Greek Homeowners Association, AHEPA Empire State District, AHEPA Hermes Chapter, and the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association. My name is Lou Katsos, the president and founder of EMBCA, the East Mediterranean Business Cultural Alliance, an executive board member of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, and AHEPA's New York District Governor. On behalf of all of us, we are honored to host the oath today for their informative presentation. And thank you to the home and business owners, city chambers of commerce, and community organizations throughout the city who have joined us for this event. Today's presenters include Oath Commissioner Joni Kletter, and Oath senior staff who will present a unique and informative presentation with questions and answers representing the official word of the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings relating to what to do if you get a summons. I would like to thank, in particular, Commissioner Kletter and her senior staff for being here today for their presentation, and George Zubalos and Oath Deputy Commissioner John Castelli for discussing with me about putting this event together and for helping make this a successful reality based on their hard work with others. I would like to acknowledge State Senator Andrew Granados, Assembly Member Michael Tanusis, and also Majority Leader of the New York City Council Member Lori Cumbo. Is Lloyd Williams with us or no, Queston? I guess not. Okay. Today's event will be moderated by Richard Khuzami. Richard has focused on civic activism, especially in his role as a 20-year member of Community Board 1 and its Land Use Committee. He is the president of the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association, a co-host of this event, board member of EMBCA, grand panelist for Queens Council of the Arts, member of Queens General Assembly, and Queens DA Melinda Katz's advisory group on relations with the Middle East community. He is also a musician and composer and has performed worldwide the music of the East Mediterranean. His production company, Dahu Productions, has provided a platform for live and recorded music. Richard.
Thank you, Lou. Thanks so much. And thanks to everybody for inviting us. This is a great event. There's nothing more important than the community having knowledge. Knowledge is in fact power, and knowledge is the key to running any successful business, I think. And I think this is important. So we're really happy to be a part of this. Part of what I'd like to do is introduce some of the people. Now, if you have a video, I would like to see that when I mention your name, if you want to wave your hand, that way we can acknowledge your presence. And then at the end, if I missed anybody, please let us know, okay? Again, I'd like to introduce, let me see, Dimitrios Philippides from Hilas FM. Hey, Dimitri. Okay, good. Then we have Frank Arcabasio from the 30th Avenue Business and Association in Astoria. Frank is there. He's got a tile. He just doesn't have his video up, but thank Frank for being here. And again, we already acknowledged, we already acknowledged George Zuvelos, who's been a mainstay in the community here, particularly with the Greek community, but all over the city. And I really appreciate you inviting us along also. Thank you so much. Kathleen Riley is with us. She is the Government Affairs Officer for New York City for the New York State Restaurant Association. This is small business is a big part of the issue that you have to deal with here. So we really appreciate you being here. Okay, and Nadia Ben-Saad from the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Nadia. Good. And okay, I have a name S. Solomon, and I'm not exactly sure who. I think that's from the Sephardic.
No, Oath.
Oh, you're from Oath. Okay, sorry. We have Sashi Rivera from the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. Okay. Is there anybody that we didn't mention that's either with oath or we mentioned for this event? Okay, well, thank you. I'd like to introduce now the Deputy Commissioner for Legislative Affairs for oath. That would be John Castilli. John, if you could take over from here, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, Lou, for hosting this event and your organization, the work that you do, the work that you do for the Hellenic community and for the city is always noted. And a little background on Lou. Lou is a very successful engineer by training, and he's a professor at Cooper Union and NYU on engineering and architecture. And he believes in education, and he's worked on some of the biggest development projects in the city and state. And as a leader in the Hellenic community, Lou has taken the issues that are so important to our city and to the communities, all the communities in our city and state. And really, he's taken the lead on making sure that our city, Queens, our state is a better place now than when it was before Lou got involved. So there's so much to say about Lou and the Hellenic community. And a big shout out to George Zavelis, I'm looking forward to seeing his next film. Mr. Zavelis is an accomplished actor, award-winning actor with FiatLuxStudios, and he's done a lot of wonderful things. And if you haven't seen any of his films, check them out. And I want to also acknowledge the great work that Senator Gennardis and Assemblymember Tannousis have been doing. They're friends of oath. They've accomplished so much in their time in the state legislature, and they have a staff that they have constant communication with oath on issues related to oath, summonses, and so forth. So thank you, Senator. Thank you, Assemblymember, for the great work that you do, and continue and keep it up. Now, I do want to also acknowledge the people that make it happen at oath. Before presenting Rachel, I want to point out that we have here our Deputy Commissioner for Communications and Public Affairs, Marissa, whose middle name's the Best Sinigo. Marissa is responsible for making oath the brand that it is today. She's been with our agency for over a decade, and our positive news is whether it was in the New York Times, in the Wall Street Journal, had it really points to the work that Marissa's done over the years in making oath what it is today. Also, and now we have John Wesh here. And as I say, I'm a big fan of John Wesh and the Help Center. John is you're going to hear a lot of what John has to say about the Help Center, what he's done, his team, and looking forward to, he will educate all of us today about the workings of the Help Center. And I want to now introduce someone who really did great work in making this happen today, and that's Rachel Lamar, Special Assistant Commissioner. Rachel has accomplished a lot in the communities throughout the city, especially in Queens. And I want to thank Rachel without further ado. Rachel.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. I think we mentioned some of the organizations, so just to make sure we get everyone, I'm going to repeat all of them. The American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association, the American Sephardi Federation, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and our host, the Eastern Mediterranean Business Culture Alliance, FiatLuxStudios, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, the Greek American Homeowners Association, Hellas FM, Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, Old Astoria Neighborhood Association, and Queens Chamber of Commerce, and the Staten Island Chamber of Commerce. So we want to thank all of them for their support to make this event happen today. And I'm going to pass it back to John.
Thanks, Rachel. And now I have the honor and privilege of introducing our special guest today. And I'm not going to get into a lengthy introduction because I could spend a lot of time talking about Commissioner Joni Kletter and the accomplishments that she's achieved in her career, and especially here at Oath. I do want to point out that when Commissioner Kletter came on board, the week that she came on board, COVID-19 hit our city. And just like it hit other cities throughout the country, the old versions of Oath in those cities, in many of those cities, shut down entirely. Cities like Chicago, Baltimore, Albuquerque, New Mexico. But it didn't happen here. Oath stayed open. And we'll see what the end result's going to be, and Commissioner Kletter will elaborate on that. But it only happened because of her foresight and what she achieved. And that's why she's here today to discuss that, to share it with all of us. Commissioner?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, great. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, John, for that introduction. Thank you, Lou Katsos, for organizing this great event. Thank you, Richard. There's so many great organizations that are joining us, so we really appreciate everyone here who's here. Thank you, Assemblymember Tanusis and Senator Gennardis. I want to congratulate Senator Gennardis on his baby boy. He's beautiful. I love seeing all the photos that you post, and I'm just so happy for you and your family. So it's great to see you. And thank you to my staff for organizing this. I recognize that this has been a very difficult time for many New Yorkers and for many people across the country. And we really want to be proactive about getting out information around Oath and what we do, and be responsive to the questions and concerns that you may have. So that's the purpose of this event. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what we do at Oath, and then we'll take questions. And for those of you who don't know much about Oath, we are an administrative impartial tribunal, and our job is to adjudicate the summonses that are issued by over 20 city enforcement agencies throughout the city. So that includes sanitation, parks, Department of Health, Department of Buildings, Department of Consumer Affairs, NYPD, FDNY, among others. And that also includes COVID-related summonses around quarantine violations and price gouging, and improper hut erections for outdoor dining and such. And we generally process about 800,000 summonses a year. And of those, over 200,000 summonses end up coming to an in-person hearing at one of our Oath facilities in front of our hearing officers. And as John mentioned, I arrived at Oath the same week as the city was shutting down last March because of the COVID crisis. And where previously we had done all in-person hearings, we immediately transitioned to telephonic remote hearings. And I'm proud to say that we've now done over 100,000 hearings on Oath-related summonses since the COVID crisis, which is really remarkable. And it's a testament to all our staff and amazing employees who've kept Oath fully operational during this time. And so now if you want to challenge a summons, you can do that in the convenience of your own home. And all you have to do is call us up and we will schedule your hearing on a date that's convenient for you. And you do not have to travel. You do not have to sit in one of our waiting rooms or go into a hearing room. You can challenge your summons from your own home. And it's been incredibly successful, and we're really proud of the work we've done. Additionally, if you do get a summons, I want to encourage everyone to reach out to our help center. And that's part of why Jean Wesh, who's our ombuds person and the head of our help center, is on the Zoom today. Our help center has done over 25,000 one-on-one help sessions since the COVID crisis began. And they provide one-on-one help and guidance for anyone who has a hearing before Oath. And they will tell you what arguments to make at the hearing, what documents you should bring to the hearing, how to appeal a decision of a hearing officer, how to file a motion to vacate a decision if you initially did not show up to your hearing. And it's incredibly helpful. I've listened in on a number of the calls, and I just think it's a great resource that we have for any individual who needs assistance. We also expanded our help center to add a small business unit within the help center. So if you are a small business and you receive a summons, you can reach out to us via special email address, which we can put in the chat, and provide you with specialized assistance for your small business. At Oath, we have also worked to become more technologically innovative. So in addition to doing remote telephonic hearings, we also provide a text messaging service for anyone who needs an update on their case and does not want to rely on the US Postal Service. This was always one of my goals when I came to Oath, was to reduce our reliance on paper mail, because we know there are a lot of people who are transient and who just may not open their mail, or just not receiving their mail for one reason or another. So you can text us and we can put that in the chat, and we can provide you with automatic updates about your case, when your hearing is, and when the decision's ready, and other information that will be useful to you as your case progresses. Finally, the Oath recently launched, through our Center for Creative Conflict Resolution, a mediation program, which is a free voluntary mediation program that provides small businesses with free mediation services if they receive a complaint from a neighbor around quality of life or neighborhood nuisance complaints that they want to resolve before an enforcement agent gets called in. We just did an exciting event with the mayor last week. And if you haven't watched the clip, I would encourage you to watch it. And we were at a restaurant and we watched the parties sign their mediation agreement. It was between a neighbor and a small business on the Upper West Side. And it's been a very successful program. We're really excited about it. And we're now expanding that service to offer small businesses mediation services for issues they have with their landlord around lease disputes as well. So we're continuing to expand our mediation program. I'm happy to talk about it more if there are questions about it, but we're very excited about the expansion of our Creative Conflict Resolution Center. So that's my spiel for now. I'll turn it back over to Deputy Commissioner Castelli to continue the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I know that, Richard, you were going to have some questions coming through, so I'm going to defer to you, Richard.
Thank you very much. Okay, what we're going to do now is anybody on the participants here, if they have any questions, they can either raise their hands, which you can do on the chat here, or if you even raise your hand in the video, if you're uncomfortable with doing it in the chat, that's fine. So are there any questions coming from the panel at this point? Yeah, Dimitri. Unmute yourself, yes, good.
Thank you everyone for organizing such a great event, first of all. One of the very important and interesting points made were regarding the help center. If we can have a little bit more information about the help centers and any time-wise, for example, how long does it take to book an appointment and the whole procedure, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you for that question. I'm going to turn it over to Jean Wesh, the head of our help center, to talk about what he does. But I just want to note before I turn it over to him that the help center didn't exist 5 years ago, and we now have 25 employees who work in the help center. So it's become a real crucial part of our agency and serves a really important purpose. And I'm really glad that they exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, as the Commissioner just mentioned, we just actually recently celebrated the Help Center's 3rd year anniversary. So we're relatively, young in the Oath space, but as the Commissioner mentioned, it's a very vital area of the agency. And what we're tasked we're doing is to assist unrepresented individuals as well as small businesses who receive summonses that are returnable to oath. And what we could provide is a unique one-on-one session with the respondent. We go over the four corners of the summonses. We could provide assistance in preparation for a hearing. If it's a situation where the hearing was missed and the respondent needs assistance to resurrect the case, to put it back on a calendar for trial, we could assist in filing those motions. We could also assist in navigating respondents through the appellate process. If they receive the decision that they don't like, they want to appeal it, and they're unfamiliar with the process, we could certainly help out with that. And so it's really vital that if your constituencies receive summonses returnable to oath, take advantage of the service. As the commissioner mentioned, we are a unit of 25, 26 people, and we have very professional procedural justice coordinators who are ready, capable, and knowledgeable about all the areas that come before oath, and we'll be able to to assign those cases and have somebody assist you. And it's important to note that during the pandemic, we've been able to do this remotely, as the commissioner mentioned, just like we've been able to do the hearings remotely. And so if you contact the Help Center, we pretty much have a pretty good track record in terms of getting back to respondents. We pretty much get back to you the same day. Of course, unless the communication comes towards the end of the day, then we might have to get back to you the next day. But certainly within 24 hours, you will receive a response. And we could do it by phone, or we could do it through email, whichever is easier for the respondent. It's also important to note that this is a free service. It doesn't cost anything. And we could also provide that assistance in any language that the respondent is comfortable with. And so if English is not the native tongue, we certainly have a service where we could offer assistance with 250 plus languages that is comfortable with the respondent. And so there is really no reason not to participate. Respondents certainly do not want to avoid any tickets that are issued that are returnable to oath. There's a pretty good track record of dismissals at oath. It's around 40%, particularly if it's a sanitation summons, those get dismissed at even a higher rate. And so the most important part is to engage in the process. And the Help Center is here ready, willing, and able to assist respondents in doing just that, so that they could better represent themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I'd like to ask in general, I think this will help. Do you have a central email address and phone number that you could verbally give out right now? Because on the YouTube feed, as far as I know, the chat does not appear. So I think that in order for people to make contact with you, I think that we need to have a couple of central numbers so that all the various services you're talking about now, can be reached through this one email and phone number.
Yeah, sure. So the main contact information, and I believe it was posted in the chat. If you want to contact us by email, you could do so at manhelpcenter@oath.nyc.gov. So that's M as in Mary, A-N as in Nancy, H-E-L-P, C-E-N as in Nancy, T-E-R @oath.nyc.gov. By telephone, you could reach us at 212-436-0845.
And if somebody had an issue that wasn't specific to your department, you could then give them the correct information as to where to go. I'm assuming you would be like the central clearinghouse for this.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, Oath has a variety of units that could assist. But generally speaking, if you contact the Help Center, we're there to streamline the process, to illuminate the path, to make it a little easier for respondents who, might not be familiar with the process, particularly for those who are showing up to our space for the first time. It's a very useful and informative. avenue. Our procedural justice coordinators, they're very professional, they're very courteous and very kind, and they're a calming voice. I know sometimes people could be very nervous when they receive summonses. And so you can always contact us. If we don't have the immediate answer, we will certainly, reach out to the proper units, in order to get the responses for respondents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the participants?
I would also just like to add that the Help Center does do interagency things as well. So the Help Center is really there to make sure that your summons is completely resolved. So some agencies require corrections and cures and other things to happen, but those processes happen at those agencies. So for instance, if you're found in violation of a GOB charge, you are required to certify correction with GOB. Every time you are found in violation, you are required to certify correction with them. So if the Help Center can help you do that and explain the process, and they have access to the forms and other things. So in terms of really making sure that the issue is fully resolved, whether it's at Oath or some other city agency, that's what the Help Center really can help you do.
And I just want to add one other thing, Richard. We now have a small business helps center unit in the Help Center and a veterans unit in the Help Center to assist veterans, particularly veterans who are vendors. So we under Commissioner Kletter's leadership, we've added these centers, and I just to put emphasis on the significance of this. Check out any other city in this country. You're not going to find an existing help center in their summons courts, and so we're way ahead of the curve here. Nowhere else in this country, and I've checked, and I couldn't find anything. All I find when I go to other cities is they put down, here's where you pay. Here's where you pay. Nothing about a help center to help you navigate the process. So this is very significant, and it's happened under Commissioner Kletter's leadership here. So it's it's something that's unique, and it's the old thing. Some of the old Frank Sinatra is saying, the best things happen in New York, and they start in New York. So just want to point that out.
Good.
And for our viewers on YouTube, if you're a small business, the email is smallbiz, help@oath.nyc.gov. So smallbizhelp@oath.nyc.gov.
Good. George, you have a question.
I'm dealing with fielding questions from social media from different organizations that are tuning in or will tune into YouTube. I know this is not agency specific, but people want to know about what services through Oath in the Help Center about coronavirus and coronavirus testing. That's one of the questions.
I can actually answer that. The commissioner made me the test and trace liaison for the agency. So if anyone is interested in getting a COVID test, the suggestion the city is giving, if you haven't been tested yet, you should get tested. The phone number to do that is 212-268-4319. And additionally, for anyone who is eligible for a vaccine, they can call the vaccine phone number, which I'll give you as well, which is 877-829-4692. And there's also a city-run website, which is vaccinefinder.nyc.gov. And if anyone has trouble or has any questions regarding COVID testing or vaccines, they can feel free to contact me, and I will give you my email address. It's ramar2@oath.nyc.gov. Thank you, George.
I also, some people also reached out to me with some questions. Does anybody else, participants, have more questions before I go into these? No, okay. Well, there's a few of them here. First of all, one question was, what agencies do not use Oath? Are there any agencies that have their own adjudication system?
I can answer that. Oh, Commissioner, go ahead.
No, but you feel free. Go ahead.
You know what I want to say. What we don't adjudicate are parking summonses. Very important. Parking summonses are not adjudicated at oath. They're adjudicated at the Parking Violations Bureau of the Department of Finance. The other types of infractions that we do not adjudicate are moving violations, speeding. If you get a speeding summons or you get a summons for driving through a red light, those are adjudicated at the Department of Motor Vehicles Trials Hearings Division, the state DMV. And last but not least, if you get a summons for a violation in the subways or on a bus, those are adjudicated at the Transit Adjudications Bureau of the MTA. So there are three areas major areas where we do not adjudicate cases. Okay. So Commissioner, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
No, I think that answers it. I do actually want to go back for a minute to the question about COVID, because in addition to the work that Rachel is doing, we do receive COVID-related summonses. So if it's helpful, we can comment briefly about that. We're seeing a lot of price gouging summonses, which is enforced by the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. And that's when a business is selling gloves or masks or other PPP at increased prices. We've also seen the houses of worship summonses that I think Sam is going to talk about briefly, because some of them were recently withdrawn given the Supreme Court decision around the case against Cuomo.
Yes, I can speak about that really briefly, and I'm happy to take any questions. The governor had issued an executive order in the fall imposing certain restrictions on capacity at a number of different institutions, including houses of worship. After a number of months of litigation, those capacity limitations specific to houses of worship have now been enjoined by a federal court, so they're no longer in place. So any of the civil summonses that were issued in September, October, during the period when the red and orange zones were in place in Brooklyn and elsewhere, if those were issued to houses of worship, mostly by the sheriff's office in New York City, those have now been withdrawn and they're no longer active cases. And any of the respondents, any of the houses of worship or owners who received those summonses should by now have received notification from the sheriff's office and should be receiving it from oath as well to confirm that those cases are no longer on the docket at oath and no longer need to be responded to. And we're happy to take questions about that. And if anybody has any cases that you feel may fall into that category, we're always available. And our help center is a good first stop to provide us with information about your summons, and we can follow up.
Any questions on that? Yes, George.
Another question somebody sent in is, do you require to have, or is it advisable to have an attorney when you approach oath in one of the hearings?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the vast majority of cases, you do not need an attorney, and I don't think it's worth hiring an attorney, especially for an individual who might receive a sanitation summons, which might be a $100 summons. There are certain cases, in particular, the Department of Building summonses, where the fines can be in the thousands of dollars, where it might be in your interest to retain an attorney. And we do have a pro bono program that we work with, two programs, one that works with TLC drivers and one that works with respondents who receive Department of Building summonses. And Vinny Gentili, the former council member, a great colleague of ours at Oath, he's now at Oath, and he oversees the pro bono program. And so we can help facilitate a connection to those pro bono organizations that can provide you with an attorney.
Okay, I have other questions also. One is, and this actually dovetails on something that the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association has actually positioned itself to be in favor of. for a lot of reasons. Are there programs where you could submit evidence that you cured a violation and receive a warning instead of a fine? And to go on that, in terms of, let's say, landlords or business owners, if they're given some sort of a grace period to eliminate the issue, this would incentivize that business owner to take care of this problem as soon as possible. It would also reduce an adversary relationship between the city and these small business owners and landlords. The businesses and landlords may even be more comfortable inviting the city in to make inspections to make sure they're in compliance, because this would eliminate extra costs that are usually passed on to tenants and businesses. So I know that you are the adjudication branch. This is not something that you can really decide, but I wondered if there are some existing programs along these lines. And I would also say, as far as we're concerned at Old Astoria, we would love to see some of our legislative people that are here to see if there is something that they may look at in terms of creating legislation that might allow these grace periods to exist. I know they exist in other cities.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm going to ask the Deputy Commissioner Marissa Sinigo to talk more about the specifics, but there are a couple agencies that allow for a cure before a fine is issued. And the City Council is actually looking at this right now at legislation in terms of expanding the universe of violations that can be cured. So it's a very timely question.
Yeah, so there are certain violations that can be cured. On the summons, you'll see a cure date, and there's a space for your cure date on DOB summonses, FDNY summonses. Some summonses won't have anything written in there. So that means you're actually not eligible for a cure for that type of charge. But if there is a cure date listed, you have to remember that the cure has to be accepted and processed by the cure date. So it's not just enough to bring a certificate of correction to the Department of Buildings the day of that date. DOB has to have processed it by that date. They will then take it off our case calendar because when you cure something, you no longer have to appear for your hearing. So you've cured it, you have zero penalty, you don't have to appear. They will notify us once it's been processed. That's why there's kind of that lag, that you have to get it in by the cure date, because this allows them time to process the cure, to notify us, and to take it off the calendar so that you don't fall into default when you don't appear. Because you've cured it, you don't need to appear. So fire has cure dates, so does DOB, so does a number of Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. What's important to know about cures is we do have fact sheets under the help section, portion of our website, about how to do cures for certain summonses. So check those out under the help center section. But the important thing to know about a cure is it's done with the issuing agency. OAS doesn't have the expertise to determine whether or not you fix the concrete on your wall. Like, that's not what we do. That's what DOB does. So all your corrections and your cures will always be done with the enforcement agency, and it's always going to be prior to the hearing date. Another thing that's similar to a cure is a settlement. A settlement can be offered. DC, Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, and Health Department give settlement agreements. So if you want to have a help session with someone from our help center and talk through what you were charged with, and they can also see in our system that you were offered a cure, they can, once you talk through your case, you'll be able to be in a better position to know whether or not you want to accept that settlement, because you'll have a better understanding of whether or not you were actually in violation, or if you still think you weren't in violation, it might be better not to accept the settlement and to go forward with the hearing and try to get it dismissed altogether. So all these things are processes that are done before the hearing. So that's what's really important to know. I think I covered everything. Like I said before, there are certificates of correction that have to be done after you're found in violation with the Department of Buildings and other things. But in order to cure something prior to the hearing date and not have to come in for the hearing, you would have to have a cure date. Now, there are some charges for DOB that allow for a mitigated penalty, which means a lesser penalty, if you have certified correction with DOB by the time the hearing date comes up. So if you go to the hearing and you say, I've already certified correction, look, DOB has updated their website, it's already been corrected, but you weren't given an opportunity to cure that, DOB will be at the hearing and they'll say, yes, now that they have certified it, we want to bring it down to, you know, a stage 3 or something, like a less aggravated charge, and that'll give you a lesser penalty. So again, talk to the help center because everything is case specific. You know, it's all dependent on what's written on the summons, what you're charged with. There are procedures for, you know, the procedure is the same for how to submit a cure, how to submit a certificate of correction. The timelines and things may be different depending on the type of case it is. So the help center can certainly help you with all of that. I hope that answered your question.
Good. Okay, good. Okay. Yes, George.
I'm getting a lot of the same questions, so I figured I'll just aggregate them and ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
The question is for the commissioner. There is a perception that during coronavirus, there has been an unequal application of the price gouging rules and regulations in response to the small business owner in our communities. The question is, can you please try to define the regulations as they apply now, and not just for PPP items or PPE items, because it seems to be a common thread, is the questions over and over from small business owners. And the second part of the question is, how does someone who received the summons from a city agency deal with a default situation?
Thank you so much for that question. And I'm glad you asked it because we are seeing a number of price gouging violations and summonses being issued by the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. And I will say that on the whole, the issuance of summonses has been down over the past year. And I think, you know, most agencies recognize that this is a very difficult time for small businesses. And there's been a real focus on education over enforcement. And I think the facts bear that out for the most part, that the agencies have not been issuing an excessive amount of violations to small businesses during this very difficult time. In terms of the price gouging rules, I'm going to turn that over to Jean Wesh to go into a little more detail, but I do just want to say that in addition to the hearing that we offer anyone who wants to challenge, when someone wants to challenge their summons, they have an opportunity to come before a hearing officer at oath and present their case. We also have an appeals process as well. And I've listened in on a number of these appeals panels as they debate the appeal from the respondents around the price gouging issues. And each case is scrutinized very closely and given the proper time and attention that it deserves. So it's something that we take very seriously, and we are not going to impose a fine on an individual or on a small business unless the agency can really prove their case. I mean, we're an independent adjudicatory body, so we're not giving special favor to one side or the other. And the agency is required to come to us and prove their case in order for a fine to be imposed. So that has to happen in every single case. And I'm gonna ask John to just explain some of the specific rules around price gouging. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So price gouging summonses, sometimes have a lot of, technicalities to them. But the thing to really understand is that, the law is basically trying to regulate excessive price increases for products or services during a state of emergency. So basically, if there's a 10% or more existence above the price at which, the same product or service is being offered, in the city, basically buyer purchase of the product in the city, 30 to 60 days prior to the declaration of the state of emergency, that's technically considered price gouging. So, at the beginning of the pandemic, the mayor signed an executive order that basically declared a state of emergency because of the outbreak of the novel coronavirus disease, 2019. So, basically it's that 10%, threshold, over similar other products in the community. There are exceptions to the law. Basically the price increase, if the price increase, is a direct result of costs imposed on the seller by the purchaser of the product or products, if the price increased because of additional costs directly attributable to additional costs for labor or materials used to provide the product or products, if the increase in price charged to the buyer is similar to the increase that was incurred by the seller, or if the product was, sold at the quote unquote excessive price before the declaration of the state of emergency. So there are a lot of factors that go into these summonses, and there may be defenses. So realistically, each summons is unique. The best thing to do really is to contact the help center. We'll sit down, we'll go through your facts, and we'll try to help you identify areas where you might be able to defend the summons. But a lot of these price gouging as well as other COVID-related summonses, they're a little technical and they're very fact specific. And so the best thing to do is to contact us, and we'll sit down and we'll look at the law. We'll work it out with you to see, where the avenues of potential defenses are to get you prepared.
I will say, although the law says 10% higher, it's rare to see DCWP issue summonses to businesses unless the price is about 25% or more than what the normal price should be. So I do think they use their discretion in when they issue summonses, but it is a balance. And I've had conversations with the commissioner of the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection about this and the impact that it can have on small businesses who receive summonses when they aren't aware of the law. And it was an unintentional raise in prices, and how that can impact the business as well. So we are sensitive to that.
I have two.
Sam Solomon want to add anything? Sam, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think we covered everything. I mean, I will encourage, again, people who are concerned about this to schedule a consultation with members of Mr. Wesch's team at the Help Center. We've been able to help a number of small businesses understand what the law is and what defenses are available to them, and then also just walk them through the procedural issues that they may face in terms of submitting evidence or appearing at the hearing or calling witnesses as needed. Because these, as John said, can be somewhat complicated cases with different types of evidence at play, and they're challenging. So I think we all recognize and we all sympathize with businesses who are trying to pull together records when different offices are closed, and we're trying to do our best to make sure everything is as accessible as possible for them.
Okay.
And you did ask a second question. I'm sorry. Did you want us to? You asked a second question about defaults.
Yes.
We have a Facebook question. It has to do with defaulting and whether that affects your credit score personally.
No. John, do you want to answer that?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
I can answer it. Realize, one of the things, and the question with default is it's a great question, because the most important thing when you get a summons is you have to answer that summons. Okay. If you do not answer that summons, if you fail to appear right now, you would appear by phone, because we're doing hearings by phone, or we're doing them for certain types of violations through the computer.
Or admit to the summons.
Sorry?
Or admit to the summons. you have to
Yes.
respond by the hearing date. You can either admit to the
Yes.
summons by the hearing date, or you can appear at the
Right.
hearing.
Right,
Right.
which I was getting to. So the thing is, you have to answer that summons. So you can answer it, as Marissa said, by paying if you feel you're in violation and you don't want to contest it, or you can appear for the summons, but do not. The third scenario is failing to even address it, which goes to, if you do not respond to that summons by the hearing date, okay, you will receive a notice from Oath indicating that you're in default, okay? You'll have a period of time to essentially move to, if you can, to get that default removed by contacting Oath and filing a motion to vacate that default, okay? If you do not do it within a period of time, eventually that default will become a civil court judgment for most summonses, okay? Most summonses. Summonses that are written to the air, water, noise, violate codes, those types of summonses will definitely become judgments, civil court judgments, and they will end up on a person's credit report. And the Department of Finance can also, as a result, file a lien on any properties that are owned by that person. So understand that it's a very serious thing not to address that summons. Okay? Is that so yes, the answer to your question is yes. I just wanted to give you some background so you get the idea of why.
Okay. I know, Demetrius, you had a question, then I have two more questions that just came through to me. So Dimitri.
So this morning on my
you have a bad connection.
Okay, is it better now?
Oh, better now. Okay.
This morning on my radio show, when I spoke about the Zoom meeting today, I received many phone calls, and the phone calls do have to do with the amount of penalties and the amount of tickets. I believe New Yorkers are really tired of the whole situation. The question is a general one. Do you think that there is any attempt to reconsider all these policies and the easiness with which tickets are issued? This is something that I think New Yorkers, if you ask them, they believe that it is the city with the biggest amount of tickets per person. That's how we feel. Is there any comment on this, please?
You know, I think there's a mayor's race happening right now, and these are the types of questions that should be brought to those candidates, right? I mean, we're going to have a new mayor come January. We're going to have a new city council with 35 new members. So because that really has to be done
legislatively.
I mean, there are 15,000 different violations that are issued to individuals and to businesses from over 20 different enforcement agencies. So change, I think some of it may be gradual, that I think the city council is working on right now. But if you're talking about some kind of fundamental shift, it really would have to be done with probably a new administration and a larger conversation around that. I'm really not the right person to comment on it, since we're the adjudicatory body. We're not the enforcement agency.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, that grace period that we were talking about before, Dimitri, would have a great effect towards eliminating some of that. It would still allow for the enforcement, but without the penalty. Because some of the enforcement is actually, it's needed, because there are times when people do things that's not good for local quality of life or health, things like that. But if that stuff can be cured, I guess, without financial loss, I think everybody wins. But that's personal opinion. Anyways, the other two questions I have here.
Before you continue, Richard, I'd just like to
Yes.
add to Dimitri's question, and I think I understand where some of his listeners are coming from.
Mhm.
Many people feel that a lot of these summonses are let's say procedures to raise money for the city coffers, if you will. Whether it's through the sanitation department, the police department, and all these other departments. And people are actually very aggravated about this. I agree totally that it has nothing to do with the commissioner today and their group, because this is a legislative issue. And to the commissioner's point, and I think to everyone's point, there are elections coming up. There's going to be a complete shift with regards to who gets elected because of the fact that a lot of them are going to be termed out in terms of term limits and all the rest of that. So you have various borough presidents, for example, who are going to be new borough presidents. You have the mayoral race and all the other races in the city council. So it's going to be a major shift. So it's a different discussion, but it's a discussion, to Dimitri's point, and I'm sure he got a lot of calls on this, that people are extremely frustrated and annoyed, quite frankly, because they feel in many cases they get summonses for really no reason, or it's done on purpose just to raise money. Apologies for interrupting. Next question.
No. Assemblyman Tanous, I see that you opened up your camera. Do you have anything to say?
I do actually, and
Sorry.
just to echo my good friend Lou Katsos, those are actually very substantial concerns that Mr. Philippidis brought up in terms of revenue being raised. I know that the speed cameras are a big issue, especially in my district, where they raised $1 million just on Staten Island alone. A lot of our constituents see it as a way to generate revenue for the city. Obviously, it doesn't have anything to do with oath, but it is a concern. And I encourage the people, just like Lou just said, we have elections coming up. You have decisions to make. Base that decision on how you feel. And I, for one, do not believe that the city or the state, for that matter, has done enough for all small businesses. And I'm sure my colleagues will agree. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to mention, Assemblyman, thank you for raising that. I do want to point out, and again, for us at Oath, revenue is not something we're focused on. We're focused on due process and ensuring that a fair and impartial hearing is provided to everyone that appears at Oath. That is our only focus. So
Absolutely.
I
I agree. And I have to tell you, as a former prosecutor, I appreciate it because it's very important that people know their rights and that you are helping them through the process. So it absolutely has nothing to do with you guys. And I champion the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And I will say there are a number of candidates who are talking about these issues and really understand the struggles of the small business community and have put forth platforms with policy ideas around this. So I encourage you to read their platforms and talk to the candidates and share that information with your constituents.
And the Assemblyman, as a Staten Islander, I understand totally. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. The other questions that came through with me, number one, will you be making the remote telephone hearings permanent? It's very popular with a lot of small businesses, number one. And the other question is, if there's a large fine, are there ways to pay in installments?
Yeah, our telephonic hearings procedure has been incredibly successful. I've actually been shocked by how few complaints, if any, that I've gotten around this new procedure that we're using, given how many hearings we're doing and the number of agencies that interact with us and the number of respondents that interact with us. I've heard almost no complaints. So we are going to be continuing the telephonic hearings for potentially forever, but also providing in-person hearings for those that need to come in or want to come in because of a disability or because of a compelling need. So there will always be, once we're back to normal post-COVID, there will always be an opportunity to come in person, but we will probably continue with the telephonic hearings for the majority of cases.
And the other question was on installments.
Yeah. Does John or Jean want to take that? You're on mute, John. or Sam can take.
I apologize. Yeah, so oath is not, you know, we really don't handle the collection aspect of things. I think the commissioner might have mentioned that before. That's really, you know, a function of the Department of Finance. And so to the extent that, you know, settlements are you know, desired, respondents could always reach out to the Department of Finance. I believe they have a settlement unit, you know, that could deal with settlements and in turn would result in making monthly payments on any outstanding balances. But that's something that really has to be inquired of the Department of Finance settlement unit.
Okay, good. George, I know you had your hand up.
Because these questions are ongoing, I am going to ask this one last question on behalf of the people that are watching from my end. And the question is, since Oath has taken such extraordinary measures to put together such a team to answer consumer concerns and constituency concerns across the city, whether there is any possibility that Oath offers help for small businesses. And I think that question is something that I think about 60%.
And you know what? I'm going to actually start off by answering and repeating what Deputy Commissioner John Castelli mentioned, that our commissioner actually started a small business service through our help center, and Marissa, our deputy commissioner, put the information in the chat. Additionally, this is not directly oath related, but I'm passing this information along from the chambers of commerce that are on here today and small business services, that there has been an announcement regarding the Paycheck Protection Program. And for these 2 weeks, starting yesterday through Tuesday, March 9th, the SBA, which is the Federal Small Business Administration, is accepting PPP applications for businesses with fewer than 20 employees. And the reason why that's important is in the past, they were left out. They didn't have enough time to prepare their information and apply. So this is a special time period dedicated to helping small businesses with less than 20 employees. So it's a really useful time to reach out to SBS, and I'm going to actually give you the best phone number to reach them in the chat, but I'll also mention it. It's 888-SBS-4-NYC. And for anyone who's interested, they're posting that information on social media, but I can also share the link in the chat for those of you that can view the link. And I'm sure our commissioner might have something to add to that because she's been working very closely with SBS.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of SBS, and you should go to their website. They have a lot of resources and helpful information. They also do one-on-one consultations with small businesses in terms of where certain violations might be by enforcement agencies. And they will point out to you where you need to make corrections, which I think is extremely helpful. So they will do that before any enforcement agent arrives. They will walk you through what potential violations you have. And they just offer a number of very helpful services.
Also, too, the Office of Nightlife also has resources on their website, like what to expect when being inspected and other things for like hospitality industry establishments. So you should check out Office of Nightlife website as well.
And one last thing, we work very closely with the elected officials, their offices, and we work closely with Senator Ganaudis' staff, Assemblymember Knusis' staff. So if you have any questions and if you're in contact with them, please feel free. They'll reach out to us and we can help resolve any issues that come along. Thanks, everybody.
Good. Yes, Nadia.
Sorry.
Oh, unmute.
Hi. Thank you, everyone, for hosting us with this compelling meeting. So I wanted to remind you also that small businesses can find help with the NYC Small Business Resource Network, which is a unique private-public partnership that provides local small business with free personalized guidance that they need right now to survive the pandemic. So if you want to join this free, amazing initiative, please sign up at the smallbiz.nyc. I can drop also the information here, and also you can contact the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce help desk at manhattancc.org if you need more information to sign up to this fantastic initiative that we are doing with the 5 Chamber of Commerce. That's it.
Okay. Are there any other questions anybody has? Well, you asked a great series of questions. I think it's been very informative, and thank you guys. I'd like to turn it over to Lou. Lou, you want to take it from here?
No, I think we want some closing remarks from the commissioner.
Okay.
Commissioner Kletter?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you all so much. These were excellent questions, and please follow up with us if you have any specific questions about a particular summons that you might have received, or just something more personal that you want to reach out to us one-on-one, and we will get back to you within 24 hours, as Jean said. But we are here to help. We are here as a resource, so please use the resources. And I hope everyone continues to stay safe and stay healthy, and hopefully we'll meet in person sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Kletter, thank you so much for this informative presentation, and thank you for your service. You and your senior staff here have done a tremendous job, and certainly all of us appreciate you being here today. I would like if we have Senator Gennardis, if he's still on, if he can say a few words if he'd like to. Senator Gennardis, are you on? Okay, Michael, if you can, Assemblyman Michael Tanusis, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to say some closing statements on your end?
Yes, I would. I just want to thank the commissioner and the staff of both for coming in today. This is very important because I have to tell you, as an attorney, I've had constituents, and even before being elected, even as an ADA, I mean, I would get people would just contact me, say, I just got a summons. What do I do? Where do I show up? It's especially prevalent in immigrant communities where they really don't know their rights and really have any idea what to do if they should retain an attorney. So the work that you do is very, very important. It's very much appreciated. And I look forward to working with you to continue that relationship to help our constituents and the people that we work for. And with that being said, I just encourage all the people on this call, it was repeated many times, pay attention to the current events. We have very important elections coming up as far as the city's concerned, as far as summonses, who issues these summonses. And you have decisions to make come in June and then come in November. With that being said, Commissioner, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you also to the audience who is with us. Many times the audience thinks that the city is or certain agencies are not working in their interests. Certainly, we heard something completely different today with regards to Oath and all their staff. Thank you all for attending.
And I just want to say, Senator Gennardis said he had to leave the office to deal with something, and he apologizes that he had to jump off early. So
not a problem. And thank you again, and thank you for your service. Take care, everyone. As a matter of fact, since we're talking Greek, my friend Michael, Assemblyman Gennardis, are you on? Okay,
I'm here, Lou.
Listen, as long as we're all on, we have the 200th anniversary of the Hellenic Revolution this particular year. Is the state doing anything with regards to any type of events to honor the 200 years of the revolution?
Yes, so we are actually, I actually spoke to Senator Gennardis recently about this. We have recently set up the Hellenic Caucus, which is the assemblymen from the Greek Americans from the Assembly and the Greek Americans from the State Senate together. We are putting something together for the parade, or I guess it'd be virtually. In addition to that, next month, we will be doing something in the Senate. I believe will be sponsored by Senator Janaris, and I will be sponsoring that in the Assembly on my end.
Okay,
So
can you invite, certain of us, in particular, AHEPA, because I am the governor of AHEPA in New York State, which is the largest AHEPA district in the whole world, actually. We would like to work with you if we can on that particular event. And we understand social distancing, masks, and all the rest of that, but we would like at least to go there to do some flag raising or some event if you can arrange it.
Perfect. Sounds good. I will speak to
Okay.
them on my end, and I will be in touch.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks everyone, and thank you for.
Hey, Louis,
Yes.
Lou,
Yes.
can I mention
Yeah.
one thing? I just wanted to mention that the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association's next meeting on March 10th will be a presentation by the Furman Center at NYU. The topic, which is a very important topic, especially in my district, is YIMBY versus NIMBY. So
Well,
housing now is a very big thing, so I hope you join us. It's March 10th at 6:30. And you could just see us on Facebook Live. It would be www.facebook.com/OANA.New York. And you can actually ask questions through the chat if you from the stream, and it will appear on our platform. Yes,
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Lou.
Thank you, Richard. And you have obviously an excellent speaker from the Furman Center. A very good friend of mine. So to the audience again, thank you again. Thank you to Oath. Thank you all for being here with us today. Thank you.